What's up guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg, with a look at the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge. So this is kind of a premium variant of the standard GS6 with a curved display on the left hand and right hand side. That curved display also adds some unique software tweaks to the experience, but otherwise this phone is kind of spec for spec identical to the standard GS6, but it is $100 more expensive, so you're really paying for that curved design. So in this video, we're going to compare this to the standard GS6 to see if that display and the software tweaks are worth the price upgrade. All right, first up, let's get to the unboxing. That's the fun part. We have our little sleeve here and our clamshell box. I just need to cut the tape along the side here. All right, so let's go ahead and lift the lid, and there is the Galaxy S6 Edge. First thing you see right away are those curved sides, so let's go ahead and pick it up. There we go. We have our little plastic sleeve. Again, all glass and metal, feels really nice in the hand. As soon as you pick it up, you can feel right away those tapered edges along the side on the left and right hand side. So the design is pretty similar to the S6. It doesn't feel dramatically different when you handle it, but you do feel those thinner edges along the side. So let's set that aside for just a minute while we take a look at our contents here. So of course, we have our literature packet, which is specific to my T-Mobile version here. So let's go and slide this out. All right, so we have our terms and conditions as well as our warranty information, our recycling pouch, our quick start guide from T-Mobile. We have our accessory guide, we have our flyer from Milk Music and Milk Video, which are Samsung services, and then we have our health and safety and warranty guide. So in terms of our accessories, again, identical to the Galaxy S6, we have our adaptive fast charger, which means 10 minutes of charging gets you about 4 hours of phone use. Now, it takes a little more than an hour to completely recharge your phone with this charger. We also have a USB 2.0 cable. Again, no USB 3 here. So the GS5, if you remember, had USB 3.0 ports. We also have our new headphones. These are kind of like EarPods, Samsung's version of EarPods. They have the same general design, but in this case, they have sleeves that go over the EarPods, which allow you to change the size of them. And they do give you 2 sizes to pick from. These headphones also include an inline remote control and microphone. Also included here is the Nano SIM tray ejector, which is kind of new for Samsung. Now, before I start up the phone, the first thing I want to do here is pop out that Nano SIM tray, which is actually located on the top as opposed to toward the side, like we see with the standard Galaxy S6. All right, so let's go ahead and start up our phone. Just going to tap and hold the power button along the right-hand side. Now, taking a really close look at the design of the Galaxy S6, very similar to the very premium design of the standard GS6, we have this all glass and metal construction. In this case, we have more glass than the standard GS6 because we have that wrapped edge. So the frame is a little thinner, there's a little less metal, a little more glass. So once again, Corning Gorilla Glass 4 kind of has this pearlescent finish, which looks really nice here, picks up the light. Now, the glass is kind of curved at the edges, so when it meets the metal frame, it's nice and smooth. The metal frame itself actually has this polished chamfered edge, which again looks a little like jewelry, kind of a higher end look to the Galaxy phone. Now, the curve to the display is actually pretty subtle here, so the bezels look really thin along the edges, but there's actually plenty of room to grip the phone without unintentionally operating the display. It actually feels pretty comfortable here, although the edges are thinner and feel a little sharper than the more rounded and fuller feeling of the Galaxy S6. But it does feel really nice in the hand to swipe across this curved edge of the display. So on the front, we have that 5.1-inch display, and only a small sliver of the sides actually curve around the edges. Of course, we have our fingerprint sensor built into the home button, just like the standard GS6, so the button itself is a little raised and more tactile than the previous generation Galaxy phones. Of course, on either side of that, we'll find our backlit capacitive controls, which work the same. Now, on the top of the display, we'll find a flush earpiece, which is flanked by our ambient light sensor, proximity sensor, and an LED notification light, and then we have our 5-megapixel front-facing camera with a very large f1.9 aperture, which lets a lot of light in. This is a really nice camera that actually records in QHD resolution, which is a step above 1080p. So on the right side, even though we have that really thin edge, we do have our sleep-wake power button along the side, which is in a thumb-reachable location. On the left side, we'll find our volume controls mounted high toward the top. Again, very thin, but very tactile and in a very comfortable position. Now on the top, like the standard GS6 and other Samsung phones, we'll find an IR LED blaster mounted toward the center. We'll also find a microphone and our Nano SIM tray. Now on the bottom of the phone, just like on the top, we'll find our antenna insulators breaking up the metal frame. We also have our headphone jack, our USB 2.0 port, a microphone, and the side-facing speaker. Now on the back, we have that nice smooth glass back panel, which also houses our wireless charging. Once again, like the standard GS6, we have both wireless Qi and PowerMat supported in this wireless charger, so it's a true universal charging system. We also have our protruding 16-megapixel camera with optical image stabilization and 4K video recording, and we have our heart rate monitor and LED flash. Now, although the display is curved, it's pretty much identical to the standard GS6. It's 5.1 inches Super AMOLED QHD resolution, so that gives us a resolution of 1440 by 2560, good for 577 pixels per inch. That's a lot of resolution to work with. Now, there are slight differences to the measurements of the GS6 to the GS6 Edge. The Edge is slightly shorter, 142.1 millimeters versus 143.4. It's slightly narrower at 70.1 millimeters versus 70.5 millimeters, and it's slightly thicker, 7 millimeters instead of 6.8 millimeters. Now, the battery in the Edge is slightly larger, 2600 milliamp hours versus 2550 in the standard GS6. Now, if you look along the right-hand side, the volume controls are in the same place, but the ones on the Edge are a bit narrower. That's the same story with the power button along the right-hand side. Again, a slightly narrower button, and you can see the SIM tray has been relocated from right below the power button on the standard GS6 to the top on the GS6 Edge. Taking a look at the top here, you can see the microphone has been moved slightly, but otherwise everything is in the right location. And toward the bottom, basically everything is in the same location. Also, if you look at the back, basically identical, the only difference is the branding. Now, there are some other subtle design differences between the GS6 and the GS6 Edge. So if you look at the metal frame on the standard GS6, it kind of comes to a ridge along the middle here, as opposed to the flatter design of the GS6 Edge. The S6 Edge also has a little more prominent chamfered edge to the metal frame, which I think looks a little bit better. Now, there are some software tweaks from the standard GS6, and you'll find it under settings, specifically quick settings. So we have Edge Lighting, we have People Edge, Information Stream, and Night Clock. So let's talk about People Edge. Now, People Edge actually appears as a small tab on either the left-hand or right-hand side, and you can swipe in from the edge to bring up your contacts. So you get 5 contacts you can assign to these little badges here. So I can go right here to add a new contact from my existing contacts. Now, this basically allows me to quickly access these contacts. So I can just tap on them to message them, email them, or place a phone call. Now, you can rearrange these, you can move them around or remove them. You can also go up to settings here. It takes you to the control panel for controlling these settings. So you can see My People here, so you can assign them from here as well. You can also have it alert you when picking up the phone. So if you have a pending contact from one of these assigned contacts, you'll actually get this little notification that pops up on your lock screen that tells you which contact came up, and then you can swipe in from the edge to quickly access them. Of course, you can also completely turn this off so that little tab along the side will completely disappear. Now, if you have a pending notification from any one of these contacts, you actually get this little color keyed tab that you can swipe on to quickly access them. So you can either place a phone call, send an email, or place a message. We also have Edge Lighting. This actually corresponds with the assigned contacts under People Edge. So what will happen here is that if your phone is facing face down, you actually see that the side of the phone will strobe in the color that's assigned to that contact. So in my case, it's orange, so it strobes in orange, but one of the other contacts might be purple, blue, pink, or whatever, and that will strobe just to indicate the corresponding contact. Now, this works with phone calls or text messages. So for example, if you're receiving a phone call, it will strobe for you, but if you're receiving a text message, it'll blink. We also have quick reply, so if your phone is face down and you're receiving a phone call, you can tap and hold the heart rate monitor and send a canned text message, which you can modify ahead of time if you want, but basically you just send a canned text message that tells them you'll call them back later. Now, we can also modify the notifications that light up the Edge screen. So we have missed calls, messages, and emails. We also have Information Stream. This is something that's available on the lock screen, and you can manage it from here, but let's talk about what it looks like first. Now, the thing with Information Stream is that you can basically just swipe along the right-hand edge or left-hand edge, and you'll see this information stream that pops up, and you can rotate it in either orientation here. So it'll show you your time, your weather conditions if you enable it, as well as your battery status and the date. And I can swipe through this as well here, so I can see my pending notifications, which I can swipe through. So I can, for example, just tap on this. If I want to go to Instagram, tap on it, and then I can unlock the device. It takes me right to that app. And I can swipe through other panels here. So I have this Yahoo widget. I can also see I have this RSS feeder, which is a panel I added. So let's go to the manager to take a look at what you can do with this. So under Information Stream, we can manage our feeds. So we have 3 of them here by default, and you can see the ones that are available. Now, if you want to know what each one is, just tap on it, and it tells you exactly what it is. So I can see this is the briefing feed. I can see this is Yahoo News, and I can see this is Edge RSS feeds. There are some others here which are not selected. So for example, I have Twitter Trends. I can select that and add it if I want. I have Yahoo Finance, and I can add that if I want. And then I have Yahoo Sports. I can go ahead and download additional ones here. There's not much to pick from, so I have RSS feeds for Edge, and then I have Who's Caller ID if I want to add that. Now, you can rearrange these panels if you want to change the order of them when you swipe through them. Just tap on reorder, and you can slide them around. Now to uninstall any one of these, just go up to More and go to Uninstall and select the ones that you've downloaded. Now some of these have additional settings here. So for example, under Briefing Feed, I can modify the notifications that appear under Briefing Feed. We can also change the Edge screen timeout from 15 seconds to 10 minutes. You can also add the weather information to the information ticker. So if you want to add that, just add Edge screen. We also have Night Clock, which will display the time and date alongside the edge in a very dim, persistent state. One of the benefits of OLED is that it only lights the pixels you need, not the entire display, so it's fairly battery efficient, but what you have to do here is schedule the time in which this activates, but you're limited to 12-hour blocks at most. Now you can also change the positioning of the edge screen, so if you prefer left hand or right hand, you can select it from here. Now, with the exception of the curved edge, both displays are nearly identical. They have the same brightness, the same color profile, but there are some subtle differences that I think are worth mentioning. Now, both phones will exhibit some form of color shifting when viewed off-axis. This means that the white tones of the display will darken or shift hue. However, this happens less on the GS6 Edge, which means the display looks a little bit better than the GS6 in some circumstances. Now, I'm assuming this is done out of necessity to minimize the distortion at the curved edges of the display. Now, just like the Note Edge, the GS6 Edge does exhibit some of that light bleeding along the bezel of the display, which is probably due to the curved optics of the glass picking up the light of the curved OLED panel. This is mostly noticeable when using the phone in a dark room, but I find it pretty easy to ignore, although I think others might find it distracting. Now, the other issue is more minor, but the curved edge does cause some distortion at the extreme edges of the display. So you'll see some color shifting due to the off-axis angle of the curved edge, and that glass actually picks up more light at the curve, so it actually reflects more light. So it looks like the edges are brighter than the rest of the display. So again, some unevenness, but it is pretty minor, and I think it's a welcome trade-off for having this curved design. In the end, the Galaxy S6 Edge takes the stunning design and technology of the standard GS6 and makes it a little more exciting and unique. This is very much a luxury item. The value really isn't necessarily in its practical attributes, but in the way it makes you feel about the phone. The curve of the phone feels great in the hand, and the unique design stands out above the crowd, which makes the Edge a little more exclusive. Ultimately, you really have to decide if that experience is worth the premium over the already excellent Galaxy S6. And I don't think there is anything wrong with wanting the phone that's just a little bit different. So now I'm curious what you guys think. Which phone do you prefer, the standard Galaxy S6 or the S6 Edge? Please let me know in the comment section below. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.